Hello, hello, my loves. So I'm going to tell you one thing as a business owner, and one thing is someone who's been in business now for about, oh my goodness, 8 years. Do you know what my biggest difficulty was? Was the content. It's like everyone, like I was in direct sales to start off with, and it was like, post your life, share what you're doing. I'm an introvert. I don't leave my house. What you got to do? Do the sixth cup of tea for the day? Posting content could be really difficult at times. So sometimes we need a little helping hand. So I figured, what better than talk to someone who's a professional content creator? They can give us ideas, they can give us tips, they can give us tricks on things that we can do to put our businesses out there very authentically, very easily, and effectively. I mean, I think that's the key there. It's got to be authentic, but it's also got to be effective. Because if you're just posting about cups of tea like I was 8 years ago, it's not going to go very far unless you're selling tea. And I wasn't. I was not selling tea. So that plus. So today I have Jenny with me. Good morning, Jenny.
Good morning.
So we're talking about content creation. Now, you've done both sides of it. You had your own business, which you had to create your own content for, and now you help other people create content. What is it that just makes you go, "Oh my gosh, I love creating content," that inspires you to be in this industry?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Karen. It's nice to be here. Um, I have a marketing background. So I work for advertising agencies and smaller companies doing their marketing. And so it kind of comes naturally to me, but it's something that, I just really like to write. And when I had my own company, it was a baking business. I was able to just do that and not have any editing and not worrying about what I was saying, and just being really authentic, as you were saying, and real.
A baking business. So you were a baker,
Yes.
and now you've gone full-time into marketing. Why that shift? What made that shift just happen that made you light up inside?
Well, in 2015, I started my baking business. I had nothing more than a marketing background. I had no idea what I was doing as far as baking. I didn't have a professional baking background. And I just decided to start my business because it was something that I wanted to do. And then in 2019, I sold my business for a profit. And then after that, I kind of always went back to marketing. It just kind of just stayed in my life. And I just had the opportunity to start writing for coaches. And that's what I do now. So I write for a whole bunch of different coaches: a finance coach, a business coach, a weight loss coach. And it's a really, really fun venture right now.
So I want to point out one thing you just said, and then listeners hear this. Jenny did not have a background in baking, decided she liked it, went for it, succeeded, and sold it as profit. So if you have those little naysayers, but you can't do that, who do you think you are? I mean, like, you've not done that before. Okay, they can go away. If it makes you happy, do it because you never know where it's going to lead you. And I think that's just one big takeaway I want to make sure everyone hears right now is if it makes you happy, go for it, try it. What's the worst that can happen? You had fun doing it. Like, really? Okay. So stop letting other people tell you what not to do. So you do content creation for all these different individuals. And I think people get overwhelmed by the idea of having to create content because I see it on social media. I call it the pray and spray. I don't know if
Right.
you've seen that, where they just, like, spray everything out and they go, "Oh my gosh, please let it catch me a lead, let me catch it." How do you organize your week? How do you help people get their mindset in the right place to do an effective plan? Because I think a lot of people don't realize content creation naturally needs to be planned out. It's not just that I wanna wake up this morning and go, I post this."
Right. I I am not a planner, and I find that my creativity just comes kind of in waves. I think that is kind of normal, for some people, and so if I just plan it out, it seems really contrived and it's not necessarily from my heart. And I am a huge believer that any kind of content you write, it should be for your audience and you should know who your audience is. But you should also just be really true to yourself, especially if you're writing your own content. You need to be true to yourself, right? Find your voice, write in your voice, and also share things that matter to your audience. Talk about your experience. Talk about how your personal story can benefit them and what they can get out of it.
I like that. I really like that you've got to share your experience. A lot of people think that, well, I'm nobody, or especially introverts, we have this, unfortunately, we have this downgraded opinion of ourselves half the time as an introvert because we're always put up in front of all these extroverts who seem to have it all, doing it all, being it all. And it's so important to share your experiences in your life and your point of view. What would you say to people who feel like maybe they don't know what to share? Like they're like, oh, but I think a common one I heard, because I help people in business. One of the common things I hear is, but I'm just a mom.
Ah,
Oh, but I'm just this. And they're like, "Well, how can I share that? Because it's not like, oh my gosh, something great." What would you say to people who are struggling creating content because, like I said, they're just a mom, or they're just a part-time employee, or they're just a dog mom, or they're just, the thought process.
right. That's a really good question. A lot of people feel that way, especially like you said, as an introvert, you don't feel like you're really special. You don't feel like you have a lot to offer in the world because you're not out meeting people and being gregarious and having all these experiences. But I think that makes you more valuable because you could talk about things from your heart. I had a donut company and I would talk about things from my um, I would talk about things from my heart. I would talk about things like why I started, what was important to me, why I started my business, and just things that were um, that they could help people relate to me as a person as well as a business owner and make me stand out in the industry. Usually, when you have a product based business, people are just like, I have a special today and it's 50% off. But if it's more like, I created my business because I want people to enjoy things that are, my donuts were vegan and gluten free. So it was things that they could eat that they couldn't normally have. And so I would talk about that and the ingredients I used and why that was important. And like I said, not very many people do that in a lot of businesses, but especially product-based businesses. And so, um, I think you can share those kinds of experiences as well as don't just look at yourself as just a mom. I mean, that's a huge job. That's a big deal. And that, I mean, in it itself, you're the CEO of your family. And you can talk about those kinds of things. You can talk about your kids. You can talk about, what you had for breakfast, in your Instagram stories. All those kind of behind the scene things are so important for people to like, know, and trust and buy from you.
So first, now I want a gluten-free donut because I'm gluten-free, and it's like all the stuff that when they say, "Oh, go gluten-free," you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm missing all that." So now I want a gluten-free donut just because you were talking about it. But you're right, it's like the behind the scenes, and I love that you're bringing up that sharing the behind the scenes helps people like, know, and trust you, and that is a huge thing to do in your stories. And yes, introverts can feel like compared to the extroverts, they're nothing special. But I believe introverts are special within their own self, that they are someone that is observant. There's someone that is, empathic is a good one for an introvert. They're heart led. So I'm loving how you're talking about the heart. What kind of things would you help someone to create content with to share their story? Because you were talking about sharing the story. How would you help someone come out with their story in order to share it as content?
Well, you could start with a post that introduced yourself to your followers. So you could do a top 5 about yourself or a top 10, and talk about, your background and what you do and why you help people. You can talk about, your favorite foods or your favorite books, or you could talk about the fact that you're an introvert. You'd be really surprised how many people really, what am I trying to say? Can understand you a lot better when you say you're an introvert. You'll find that you will tend to attract people who are a lot like you to your business. If you say that you're an introvert or you talk about, the fact that it's really hard for you to, do X, Y, and Z, people can understand that. And I think it's good to be exactly who you are instead of pretending to be somebody that you're not. That makes creativity and content creation so much harder when you try to be someone that you're not.
Oh, yeah, it's that web of lies, like, how which thread do you pull to unravel it all? And it's much easier to be authentic and just give yourself, because I think what a lot of people don't realize with content creation is you're not trying to get everyone to buy your service or your product. You're trying to get your audience to buy your service or product, and that is not everyone in the world.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
So so people come to you to have content creation. Where do you start with these? Like you said, you work with a lot of coaches. Now, I know coaching is a type of business. So, other business owners, how do you start with them to help them create a content plan that you can help them deliver?
Uh, it's basically just sharing, the what am I trying to say? Like, you have different angles that you can take. So you could have an inspirational angle or a entertainment angle. Reels would be a really good example of the entertainment angle. As far as inspiration, it's, getting people to do something that you want them to do or relating to their experience in a certain kind of way. There are, other angles that you can take with the content, but pretty much once I have those angles, then I'm able to write the content for those coaches, so that it sounds like it's coming from them, but really I'm the one that's writing the content. And I think it all has to do with understanding the audience that you're trying to attract and understanding their wants and their needs and what they're looking for as far as whatever you're selling, whether that be a product or a service.
So, let's dig into that. You were saying the audience, because I brought up audience. You don't want to be for everyone. You're never going to be for everyone. And I think that's something that anyone in business, they try, but everyone can have my product service. You're not for everyone. No one is for everyone. And you help your coaches create content for their audience. How do people determine their audience? I think that's the big question of the day.
I mean, I can talk about it from 2 ways, but I think from a product-based business, it's um, to know who your customer is by doing research and knowing what is popular, knowing what's gonna sell. I did a ton of research on Google just to find out, what kind of keywords people were searching for as far as baking goes. Um, I looked at trends. I also looked at Instagram to figure out, what kind of trends were happening in baking. And at the time, vegan baking was huge, and vegan donuts were starting to come up in places like LA, New York, San Francisco, Chicago. But they weren't necessarily huge in Denver. And so I figured out that my key customer would be someone who was vegan, and then eventually I moved to gluten-free vegan. But I think it's really doing your research and knowing who your ideal customer is, and knowing, like I said, I hate the word pain points, but you could look at their pain points and trying to figure out what they are looking for as far as your product or your service goes. And then really intimately getting to know them. Some people say to do an avatar, but I just think you just need to know their emotional needs. And once you can tap into that, it's incredibly valuable.
And there is a book out there. I cannot remember the author to save my life right now, but it's 1,000 Raving Fans.
Oh,
You do, and the whole premise of this book is any business in the world, they don't need to have a large audience. If you can get 1,000 raving fans, your business is set for life.
wow.
And if you think about it, most people have more than that on any social media platform.
That's true. Yeah, because what happens is you have 1,000 rating fans and they recommend you to their friends and family. And then your business becomes word of mouth. And that is the golden ticket, right? A business is not having to go out and get business, but actually having people come to you.
So when we're creating content, we don't have to try and appeal to the masses. And this is something that holds introverts back because they're like, "But I need to appeal to the extroverts, the introverts, the ambiverts." I don't believe in ambiverts because I know I'm terrible. But no, just dial down who your ideal audience is. Dial down who you are the ones that need. Dial down your ideal audience, the ones people that you can help, the ones that you can help grow. I mean, one of is moms because, hey, you can hear them. I have kids and I show up with my kids all day, every day because that's who I am and that's who I help. Now we've got our audience, we've got some content, we're coming from the heart, we're doing these things. I'm going to ask you the absolute most crucial content about question about content ever. How do you measure if your content is working?
Mm, that's a really good question. I think there are different ways to do it. I believe that, well, I'll say the different ways first. A lot of the gurus out there recommend that you look at your analytics, right? You look at your insights. Let's say we're talking about Instagram, and you look in your insights and you see how many people are, how much reach you have and how many shares you have and how many likes you have. But I personally believe that your content creates community, and so if you have people that are sending you DMs and you have people who are sharing your product with their friends and family, or they're sharing it on their feed, they're sharing your whatever you're saying on your feed and they're sharing it to their feed, that is um the ultimate test of success, I think. I mean, shares, I was saying that shares aren't important, but they are important because that means that they resonate enough with your content that they want to share it with everyone else. So I don't necessarily look at like all the analytics as far as success. I think it's more of having that community feel. When I had my donut business, I had people sending me messages all the time, and they weren't random bots and they weren't random people that were sending me DMs about, get 100 more followers and follow me on, whatever, and trying to sell me something. It was more like, oh my gosh, I love what you just said. Oh my gosh, my husband and I just tried your donuts and we absolutely love them. Oh my gosh, we drove all the way from an hour to come and get your donuts. And I just wanted you to know. I mean, those are things that it's showing that your content is working. It's showing that you're building your business on community. And that I think is the most important thing. And it's also a really difficult thing. But like I said, when you know who you're trying to attract and you also understand how your product or service can help them, then it eventually comes together and you create that sense of community.
You see, I love that. Your content is about creating community. Because if you can create community, you do get to 1,000 raving fans, you do get a solid business base, you do get everything like that. I mean, take some of the biggest companies in the world, like Coca-Cola. Every year, the community expects the Santa Claus to come out, and people rave about that. It's what makes them who they are, what makes them stronger. So we want to create that content. We want to create that community. Now, Jenny, if anyone was to want to get a hold of you because they're like, oh my gosh, I want to create content. I get what she's saying. I get about creating an audience. I get about creating that. It's too much. I need someone to help me. How would they reach out to you?
The best way to find me is on LinkedIn. It's Jenni Reher. The LinkedIn URL, and then Jenni Reher, JenniReher. And you could definitely get a hold of me that way.
Perfect. Well, I love all these ideas you came up with. I love the fact that we're talking more about community rather than just people. I love that we're talking more about creating an authentic self. And that's the thing. That's what we have to do with our content. It's about sharing our story, sharing who we are, sharing how we benefit people. So thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate you. And listeners, let me know in the comments whether you're watching this on social medias or you're listening to it on one of the podcast channels. What tool are you taking away from today's episode to input in your life? How are you going to use this information to help you grow? This has been another episode for the Introverts Toolbox. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll talk to you on the next episode. Ta-ra for now.
Bye.